Picture this. You're scrolling your phone one evening, your payslip's open, and there's a super line showing money going into your fund. It feels handled, sorted. But here's something most people never realise. That line on your payslip is not proof the money ever actually reached your super fund. And right now, that gap is quietly costing Australians billions. If you've never thought to check this, that's not a failure on your part. Almost nobody is told it can happen. But around 2.8 million Australian workers miss part of their super every single year, according to Industry Super Australia and the ATO. Today, I'll walk you through 3 free moves: audit, report and monitor, so this never quietly drains the retirement you're working toward. Here's the number that reframes everything. The ATO estimates the super guarantee gap, the difference between what employers should pay and what actually lands in funds, hit $6.25 billion in 2022-23, about 6% of all super owed. And here's the part most people miss. Most of that money is never recovered, which is exactly why checking early matters so much. So here's your plan for today. 3 simple moves. First, you audit your contributions against what you're actually owed. Second, you report any shortfall properly. Third, you set up monitoring so it can never quietly happen again. Each one is free, and each takes you under 20 minutes. Let me show you how this happens in the first place, because it's rarely dramatic. The super guarantee is 12% of your ordinary time earnings from the 1st of July 2025. But employers can misclassify those earnings, pay late, or skip casuals and apprentices altogether. The ATO says most of the gap is technical underpayment, not deliberate theft, which means the responsibility to spot it quietly lands on you. And here's where it gets genuinely important. The gap isn't shrinking, it's growing. The ATO's own figures show it rose from about $2.79 billion in 2015-16 to $6.25 billion by 2022-23. That's more than double in 7 years. So this isn't a fading problem you can ignore. It's one worth checking on now. Now, I want to be upfront with you about the honest catch here. The ATO does acknowledge unpaid super and gives you a proper process to report it. But you have to detect it yourself first. And that's the hard part. Many people only discover missing super years later, by which point the employer may be insolvent or the record's long gone. That's what makes catching it early so valuable. So what does waiting actually cost you? Industry Super Australia modelled it 3 ways. On the lighter end, a small gap might be a few $100s a year. In the middle, their headline figure, just $1,994 unpaid at age 25, becomes about $14,000 less at retirement. And if the gap is larger or runs for years, the loss climbs well into 5 figures. Check now and you catch it within a quarter. Let's clear up the myth that stops most people from acting. A lot of us quietly assume super is just a bonus from the boss. And if they don't pay it, tough luck. That's simply not true. Under the super guarantee laws, your super is a legal entitlement. And from the 1st of January 2025, intentional underpayment of wages, including super, is a criminal offence, with penalties up to 10 years jail and $8.25 million for companies. Under the Fair Work Act, the system is genuinely on your side now. Let me put the 2 numbers side by side so you can see yourself in them. Industry Super Australia found an average loss of $1,994 per affected worker in a single year. And that 1 year at age 25 compounds to about $14,000 gone by retirement. Small gap now, large hole later. And that's exactly why a 20-minute check pays for itself many times over. Let me make this real with someone you might recognise. Meet Tanya. She's 29, an apprentice electrician earning $60,000 a year, with $25,000 in a retail super fund and 36 years until retirement. Her employer is a small construction firm that often pays late. And like most people, Tanya simply assumed her super was being taken care of. Then she decided to check. Here's what she found. Tanya logged in to MyGov and ATO online services and saw 0 employer contributions for the last 12 months, even though every payslip showed super accruing. On $60,000 at 12%, she should have received $7,200 for the year, according to the ATO. Not a single dollar had reached her fund. And that's where the real cost starts. Now here's the part that changes the whole picture. Using Industry Super Australia's compounding ratio, we're nearly 2,000 unpaid at 25 costs, 14,000 at retirement. Tanya's $7,200 gap for one single year scales to roughly $50,000 less at retirement in today's dollars. It's a modelled estimate, but it shows you plainly. 1 year of nothing is a 5-figure hit. And here's the discovery that hit Tanya hardest. This wasn't a one-off mistake. McKell Institute research found that in some sectors, between 42 and 75% of workers were underpaid super at some point, with young, casual and migrant workers most exposed. So if you're in one of those groups, please hear this clearly. It isn't bad luck, and it isn't your fault. It's a pattern worth checking for. So let's see what 5 years of this looks like for Tanya. $7,200 unpaid each year for 5 years is $36,000 in missing contributions. Scaled by Industry Super Australia's compounding ratio, that's roughly $250,000 wiped from her retirement balance. Yes, it's a modelled estimate, but it's 250,000 reasons to spend 20 minutes checking yours. So could this be you? Here are 3 honest signs to watch for. You've never actually logged in to check your super in ATO online services. You don't really know which fund your employer pays into. Or you're casual, a contractor, an apprentice. Or you get paid late fairly often. If any of those sound like you, make this the week you do the 3 moves. Right, 3 moves, and let's actually do them together. They're all completely free, and the first one will tell you in a matter of minutes whether you've been shortchanged. Let's start there. Move 1, you audit your contributions against what you're actually owed. Quick reminder that this is general information, not personal advice. Log into MyGov, link the ATO service, and view every employer contribution reported to the ATO. Then use the ATO's Estimate My Quarterly Super calculator to work out what you should be receiving each quarter. This is the step that gives you the truth. Here are your 3 quick steps. Log into MyGov and link the ATO. Use Estimate My Quarterly Super to see exactly what you're owed. Then compare that against your fund statements and flag any gaps. What good looks like? Your contributions matching 12% of your ordinary time earnings every quarter, with no missing periods. If that's what you see, you're in the clear. Move 2. If you find a shortfall, you report it properly. And I want to be honest with you here, this step takes a bit of effort. It's not a one-click fix. Gather your evidence, payslips, your contract, your SG calculations, and fund statements. Then ask your employer in writing to confirm when, to which fund, and how much super has been paid. If the discrepancy stays, you escalate. 3 steps for this one. Collect your payslips, contracts, and calculations. Ask your employer in writing to confirm the super they've paid. Then lodge the ATO's online Report Unpaid Super form and add a Fair Work Ombudsman claim if your wages are short too. What good looks like? The employer making documented catch-up payments and the ATO actively progressing your case. Move 3, and this is the one that protects your future self. You set up monitoring so underpayment can never quietly hide again. Turn on email or SMS alerts from your super fund for every contribution, and schedule a quarterly reminder to cross-check the ATO's reported contributions against your fund and your payslips. This is how you catch a problem within 1 quarter, not years later when it's too late. 3 simple steps. Switch on contribution alerts in your funds app. Set a quarterly calendar reminder to cross-check MyGov against your statements. And for any missing or late quarter, follow up with your employer straight away. What good looks like? Every quarter showing a matching SG payment within weeks of payday on autopilot. So why does all of this matter right now? 3 dates tell the story. In 1992, the super guarantee began at just 3%, the legal baseline. In 2015-16, Industry Super Australia exposed $5.9 billion unpaid, hitting 2.98 million workers. And from the 1st of January 2025, intentional underpayment of wages, including super, became a criminal offence under the Fair Work Act. The law has genuinely shifted in your favour, which means your evidence matters more than ever. Once you've acted, here's how you know it's actually fixed. You should see catch-up contributions land in your fund within weeks. Confirm that each new quarter shows a matching SG payment going forward. And if gaps keep appearing, escalate using your ATO case reference number rather than letting it quietly slide. This is your money. Treat the follow-up as part of the job. Every figure I've shared today comes from the ATO, Industry Super Australia, the McKell Institute and the ABC. I've put all the links and the exact tools in the description below, so you can sit down and do this yourself today, start to finish in under an hour. So if you've made it this far, you now know how to audit, report and monitor your super so underpayment can't hide from you again, something most people in your situation never learn. Next, I'll show you how to find and merge your lost super accounts in 15 minutes. The single best thing you can do today is log into MyGov and check 1 quarter of your super. It takes about 20 minutes, and it's the step that tells you where you stand. If you want to keep building a retirement you can actually count on, that's exactly what we cover here. I'm Alex. I'll see you in the next one.